Should we be trying to aim in life to make the world a better place, to serve others, to help others, to see people suffer less in general, to accumulate knowledge stores for future generations to use, to solve problems that will make life better for others in the future? Good questions, I think. The typical message, too, as per your message matters, or sing your song, and so on, or the world needs your input. Well, it strikes me, first of all, that as Maslow would say, Abraham Maslow, we typically want to address our physiological needs for survival first, or in general, too, I would say, minimize certain key elements of fear that could pop up on a chronic basis, or anger or guilt issues. Get these out of the way first, something probably most people don't make huge amounts of headway on. To do so maximally would probably, in Buddhist circles, and I'm not strictly a Buddhist, be called enlightenment. But let's just pretend or say we've got our safety needs met, our physiological needs met, our quashing or taking care of fear issues, anger issues, and guilt issues in general, and we kind of thus also may be clear sailing people, very freed up, unenslaved people in our own skin and minds, and very efficient people perhaps. You might call them even geniuses or wunderkinds, or highly effective people and successful people. Well, what then? Wouldn't you say then these are poised people to march out in the universe or world and make an impact like you can't believe, to solve problems and make people feel better on a large scale? But how large is that? Carl Sagan has talked of there being, the astronomer talking about there being a huge number of possible worlds. Some might even say more than one universe. And how long even is this universe going to last? If it collapses into a black hole in 13 billion years, all the work of accumulated generations will go up in smoke or in a black hole someday. So then the question is, if you're even going to say cast a starfish in the ocean, what's the point in the cosmic sense, and for how long a period is the cosmos even going to be there? What's the point then of pursuing, after we've solved a lot of our own issues and our pain points, helping others? Why even thus set out on a mission to save the world, help the world, leave the world a better place, and so on? What's the point of it? Is it just to give ourselves a pat on the back, or are we disillusioned? Now, I thought something rather interesting. The day before Christmas, that was December 24th, 2022, and I made a recording. I may be able to track it down someday, but it's of this essence. Maybe when we're done focusing so much on our pain points, our survival, our preventing pain of a maximal nature in the future, or learning how to accept it, frame it properly, optimally, I'd say, well, what better is there to do with our time rather than just sleep or end our lives, as some geniusts have done in India? What better is there to do with our time than to help improve others, either as they exist now or the knowledge stores for the future? By the way, on that account, take a look at books by Isaac Asimov in science fiction. The Foundation, I think. There was a Harry somebody, and he tried to accumulate knowledge for future generations of the universe, if I remember correctly. Not just help people right now. He wanted to thus basically build a better mousetrap in terms of a better library for the sky, for future generations to use, or as some would say, right to leave a legacy, or right for future generations, whatever. In fact, this latter point, I believe, is what one philosopher in Europe had tried to do. It wasn't Voltaire. Who was it? Diderot. Yes, he kind of went in isolation for decades with a team of workers to write for future generations. Kind of reminds me again of what Asimov was talking about in one science fiction book or series. The Foundation, I believe, or Foundation series of books. But, if this isn't going to make like a huge impact any one person in a cosmic sense, and we're just fooling ourselves, even say, if you could save the whole world and forever, well, is that a drop in the bucket compared to all the worlds? What is our primary motivation then? To quote unquote help people. Isn't it because we don't have anything better to do with our time than either hop in bed and just sleep, zone out on drugs completely, end our lives like some geniusts have urged if they quote reach enlightenment? What better is there to do? Why exist rather than not exist is the question too. Well, why not? I mean, if you're going to do something, why not help other people in some way rather than just watch inane television shows also, which you might call a form of zoning out or even more, maybe venting our frustrations. This may seem almost absurd to some people, but really, why do something rather than nothing? Why exist? I mean, why not? In fact, I'd have to state, on a physiological level, probably many people volunteer or even hold jobs that you call a conventional 40-hour to 80-hour-a-week job because they're bored at home. In fact, they're bored at home because, in my opinion, largely, they're tired of television otherwise, don't want to zone out on drugs or sleep as a drug of choice or just eat as a drug of choice, and mostly because at home they're alone in a room with their own thoughts if the TV is not on, and if it is on, they're bored in time with what is on, or they're hearing things that trigger them. Any which way, getting out of the house is something important to many people. That alone they call then a job. Well, it seems to me many volunteer jobs might thus be just ways of killing time to avoid boredom that comes in turn from our thoughts in a room alone, undistracted thus. My final humorous note is, why go to nature on a nature walk and carry your boombox and play that? Why go to nature and be in a pack of 50 other people? Why go bird watching with 50 other people? I used to do that all when I was younger and not give it a second thought. Now I do. Now I also laugh a little humorously when I go out to a favorite nature sanctuary out in the middle of nowhere, and next door, outside of the sanctuary, there being a few homes spread out, and one day on a Sunday afternoon, beautiful weather, I observed someone gardening with their boombox playing right next to the nature sanctuary. Yes, what good is nature if it's not nature? It's just like going camping and RVing down on the river, packed in like sardines, everybody playing the TV set and the beer bash going. Is that nature? That's just a different house because you're tired of your own house. You want a change of place of houses so that your house isn't boring and doesn't distract you anymore. Maybe then if you have the same RV in time, you're going to want to upgrade to a different other RV or hence a better boat. Or even a better trophy wife as a distractor. So I'm in no way, shape, or form urging us all to not want to help other people, to not feel empathy for the suffering of other people, in no way. But I am kind of wondering if it's a little confusing to think that we're making much of an impact compared to what could possibly be. For instance, it's said Jesus saved the sin. Jesus offered an out. Jesus was here to save us from our sins and save mankind. He was the Messiah for mankind. But he was the Messiah then for one world. What about all the other worlds? Jesus possibly saved the lives, theoretically speaking, of all people on Earth, but what of all the other Earths or planets? Even if he did give all people on Earth an out, did he give all the people on all the worlds an out and for all time? Or was it a drop in the bucket, like throwing a starfish in the ocean? Some would say, or a drip in a sink full of water or in a bathtub. Yes, wonderful to do, and how it impacts ourselves too in many a way, shape, and form. But do we do it because we think we can ease all suffering or make a huge impact? Or is it all relative? And secondly, not just all relative, but why do it at all then? Why help even one person? Perhaps it's because we have nothing better to do with our time other than just end our lives in what you might call nihilism, sleep it away, literally in bed, or drink it away, zone it out away with marijuana, or any other way, TV it away, isolate it away, or whatnot. What better to do with our time than to help other people? But to fool ourselves and say it's making a huge, huge, huge impact, and that's why we're doing it, seems to me begging the question. In fact, maybe some people help other people to avoid just being plain bored and to avoid their own problems. The more they're helping other people, they're not facing their own issues. I met up with someone I used to date, and they had a lot of unresolved issues. I have had a lot of unresolved issues in my life too. Some of them resolved, some portion of them not still. Some never will be resolved, but they wanted to get on the bandwagon and start all kinds of groups in church and this and that, help everybody, but they had massive blind spots about helping themselves with issues they had no idea they had. So, in fact, many people wanting to help others and on crusades to that extent, in one way, shape, or form, missionary, talk show host, writer, whatnot, may have a lot of issues themselves that they're running away from, and the exclamation is, I've got all the answers now, and I want to help other people suffer less by communicating them, when what they may be doing is avoiding 10-ton issues in their lives to be solved. How convenient to run from these and not address them, not focus on them by saying, I'm now helping other people, and I'm so consumed with this. How convenient. Until such time as their staff members say the person was very hard to work with, or some big flaw comes out and they end up in prison or declared a complete fraud or hypocrite, relatively speaking to what they were claiming to be. Thoughts here.